Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We've just taken Hearts to Celtic Park and done them over, 3-0, maybe the best performance of the season, and now we're staring down the barrel. It's Derby weekend, it is nigh, and we are here for the Celts Are Here podcast. I am Quinny, and I'm joined as ever by Miho. Mike, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail, people. I'm sat in a weird lighting situation because I've had to do it in my spare room.
Yeah, brought back at the end of Easter, and this kind of divine glow going on here.
I am the resurrection, and I am at least underneath a very big light.
Loving it. Now this weekend, we're coming into the Hearts game. It was the first home game of the split. Hearts have not been a good team for us to play against this season, so I think like Celtic fans coming into the weekend, we're definitely not pessimistic. But this was a game where no one wanted to get above their station and say, "Oh yeah, we're definitely going to get the 3 point." Or we all expected to win, obviously, but this was a game that, definitely was unfinished business. We had a score to settle with them, and I think we're all coming out of this game, or most of us anyway, saying that from the dugout to the pitch to the terraces, probably the best game of the season.
Yeah, kind of in hindsight, it is. It's weird. One of my mates texted me straight afterwards saying this is the best performance of the year, and I thought, we drew with Atletico Madrid, like shit. But, I think there was a game we were 6-0 up at half time, but no, it was good. It was good. The first 20 minutes, I thought we were rubbish, and it was so weird because the amount of times that we've played well and not scored, and then we scored twice, but actually I thought played really badly, and like the run of it, Hearts really disrupted us. And my main takeaway was that I really hope Rangers do that to us because we'll beat them by a lot if they do. Like, I think if they try and play like that, we'll play straight through them because we won't be as passive. But yeah, it was a weird game. In the first 20 minutes when all the good things happened, I thought we played quite badly. But then the other 70 minutes when not much happened, I thought we played really well. So it's one of them. I always think what would happen if the game happened in reverse. So if we'd have scored a penalty in the first 5 minutes, played really well for 70, kind of let them back into it, but then scored 2 late on, we'd probably be like, what a game, So it's I'm regularly reminded that football is a 90-minute game, and you don't win in the first 10 minutes. That's especially for the weekend.
Especially at Celtic, because it's not been one of those seasons where we've had 2 great halves kind of put together, for a lot of reasons, whether the quality of the bench or different things, quality of the starting 11, a few other bits and pieces. But getting the 2 goals in the first half is definitely what we like to see. It kind of sets the tempo and gave us that kind of comfort to kind of go through in the game. But I make it quite right. Like, Hearts were quite busy. I don't know if I'd quite give them the first 20, 25 minutes, but certainly the first 10 minutes, like, they were, in our box a few times. They got a couple of, did they get some corners? I think they might have.
Did they get some corners? Let me tell you about corners, because there were a lot of corners, and neither us nor them can take them. So,
yeah, I know there was a lot in the game. I'm just trying. Hearts got 8 over the match, and I'll go and check how many they got in the first half. I did think it was like.
Can I guess how many we got? I think we got 19.
I've got 17 in front of me here.
That's pretty close. 17. That's a lot of corners. 25 in the match. 26 in the match.
It is indeed. And if we still had Ange Postecoglou here, we'd be talking about how we don't practice them anymore. So maybe there's something for another day there. Yeah, in the first half, Hearts get 6 corners, we get 9. So it was quite a. There was lots of corners, lots of throw-ins. The game, like, there wasn't too many like extended periods of play, from back to front. And normally part of the game that, we can get a little bit frustrated by under Brendan Rodgers is like the death by 1,000 paper cuts, trying to take all these extra passes. And normally we see kind of McGregor in that kind of little pivot position. But for me in the first half, we didn't really get too much of that. Like McGregor, O'Reilly, and Tatate were a bit freer to kind of go around the pitch and, like impact the game wherever the spaces were. And I make it quite right. I think partly the way Hearts set up allowed us to do that. And if Rangers can do the same, that would be lovely. But I think the initiative the guys showed, for the first half, like O'Reilly's goal, if I can get kind of onto a point here, O'Reilly's assist, I beg your pardon, for Kyogo's goal has been long in the making. For Celtic fans that have been paying attention to Kyogo, guys that go to the games every week, he's been making those runs all season long, trying to break in to get on a ball from deep. And finally, it looks like one of them has actually been played and it came off in a big way. So not just the actual route to goal that we tried to do, but just the actual play and the ambition and the way we tried to play was, for me, in the first half, very refreshing.
Yeah, we played forwards. Like that's the main thing. Like when we got the ball, we went forwards with it. Which, if you do that, you'll lose the ball more often, but you'll also go through a lot more often. So I think we didn't try and. I think it helped that Hearts came out and they gave us space to play into. Like most teams, that pass from O'Reilly is amazing, but how often is that run on? Like, if you get what I mean, like how often is the team that we're playing against that far up the field that you could put it in behind? Like, it doesn't seem like if that's, Kilmarnock or St Mirren, he probably isn't that space there. And fair play for making it. And it's not actually he's tried it a few times, like I think over the course of the year. And yeah, it's amazing when it comes off, isn't it? But I think there was I thought I was really worried for the first 20 minutes. I actually remember I looked this up. If I had my phone, I would tell you when I looked it up. But the possession was about 60% to them, which I was thinking, I can't imagine that has ever happened in a domestic game. Not 5 minutes in, like 20 minutes in, just because they were really trying to do it. But as is always the case, I guess, when teams do that in Scotland, like they don't really do anything with it. Like they just play in front of us. We couldn't really deal with Shankland. Like he was playing really deep and sort of our defence didn't know whether to go after him, which gave him an extra man in midfield, which meant that McGregor was kind of a little bit overwhelmed. But I mean, if their striker wants to go and play 40 metres from goal, like see you later, Lawrence, go and play all the way over there, because he wasn't actually doing anything. Like he was, if anything, he was removing himself from where he's only effective with inside sort of 15 metres anyway. So if he wants to go and play in defensive mid, he's welcome to. So yeah, I think it was just a very strange game in that we were really clinical, which we're often not, and the team actually tried to play us at our own game, which they don't really do. So I think it took a while to settle down, but like I think maybe the most impressive thing about it was that we problem solved our way out of it, which you do when you've got your best players, which we now have. So like if you've got McGregor, Hatate, and O'Reilly, as you mentioned, like they're more capable of swapping with each other. They can go where they're needed a bit more. Whereas I feel like Iwata has been really good, but he's really only ever going to play one part of the field. Bernardo, very good at following instructions, but only going to play one bit of the field. So like having those guys who have played together for what, 2.5 years now since O'Reilly signed, like they're really used to playing together. If it was Football Manager, they'd have the little partnership triangle going on in central midfield. So like they can do that with a little bit more confidence. And I think we just sort of grew into the game. I think it helps that Forrest, like I'm not sure I'm as high on James Forrest as other people are at the moment, but like he doesn't lose the ball very often. So you can hit the ball up him and get up the park slowly. So when we would usually do that to Palmer and he might just lose it, or you do it to Maeda and he might just lose it, or Young and he definitely will lose it. Like Forrest doesn't really do that. I thought Kuhn actually, I think I've seen some people slagging off Kuhn, but like his ability to just get the ball up the field is really good. Like he takes players on, he kind of runs around a lot. I don't think he's quite got the end product yet, but like all the bits that far, he's really effective at getting fouled and just moving the ball, and all that sort of stuff went really well. And I think if you do that with better players, you tend to create opportunities, and we actually did that. Like, and it was funny that we didn't do it. We didn't capitalize when we were on top, but I guess if you score when you're not on top, then you don't have to. So it was an interesting sort of reversal of how we've normally played. But I'm trying to think of the Alan Pardew line. They played their part. We're really patronising. Well done, Haas. You played your part.
Yeah, they played their part.
Yeah.
And in terms of the most impressive parts of the game, like I think we've definitely seen like old McGregor back. I say the McGregor we know and recognise in a lot of senses. He got a real big cheer from the crowd for a few recovery runs coming back and really making the difference after I've been slinging mud his way for his defensive acumen, as it were. So really good to see that he's a subscriber of the channel and he took that personally and he was out to.
Just imagining Callum McGregor in this sort of Last Dance Michael Jordan meme, the picture of Quinny. I took that personally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that to one side, for me, I think the most impressive thing from the game was Kyogo, because again, I love Kyogo as much as an ex-Celtic fan, but I've not been shy in giving the guy criticism, especially over the last couple of months, for maybe a borderline poisonous attitude to being a selfish striker. But this game here, I've not seen that Kyogo since we first signed him. He was dropping deep. He was linking into little pockets. He sent a beautiful ball through to Hatate to try and assist him. Like, when have you seen Kyogo try and get an assist? And part of my thinking for this, Miho, I'd love to get your take on it, was after his assist last week for Forest, where no one believes he meant it because he didn't. Obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, he didn't assist last week, but whether it was intentional or not is,
Maybe he's thinking, no one even thought to believe that I meant that because I never pass. So maybe I need to pass once in a while so that if that happens again, maybe I can He claimed that.
So here's my this is strictly for the Dars. I don't know if it's Dars. I don't know if it's men of a certain age, Celtic fans of a certain age. I think Kyogo is a bit deluxe Gary Hooper. Like he's like he runs around a lot more than Gary Hooper did. But have you ever seen Gary Hooper try and dribble? Like you don't see it in highlight videos because he was really, really bad at it. Like he didn't like taking more than 2 or 3 touches. And Kyogo does that where he sort of drops back into midfield, turns up and faces and goes, "Oh no. This is not. I'm 40 meters from goal here, and I don't really know what to do." And so you sort of just want to just lay it off and then run in behind. But yeah, he was moving around a little bit more. Like Rodgers had this idea that he was some sort of 10 earlier in the year to try and get him to touch the ball more. But kind of, I don't want to go all Ange Postecoglou here, but if he only touches the ball 3 times and they all go in, like he's basically the best version of himself he could possibly be. So yeah, I was interested to see him sort of put that shift in, and I would be interested to see if he did that again and he had Maeda playing, because if he does that and Maeda's running beyond him, that is a real. Not many teams are going to be able to deal with that very well. And I think it's also if he always stays on the line, he's a lot easier to mark. You know, like his best work does when he comes back and goes forwards, or when he goes beyond. Everyone thinks he's offside and he comes back. Like his movement's so good, and I think he's just been sort of a little. I don't want to say because I don't sit in the stadium, but he seemed to me a little static, like waiting for the ball to come to him, rather than doing all the other little, running around. Maybe it doesn't work, but you're coming from a different angle and just making defenders think all the time. Because the thing that Scottish defenders are not good at is thinking and responding. If you want to lump the ball in so they can head it away, they'll be pretty good at it. If you want to play in front of them, they'll be pretty good at it. But if you make them go, oh, where's that little Japanese guy gone? That's when they fuck up. So, yeah, he's. I think I saw something that was his first double in since Ange's first season, maybe, or since the Hibs Cup semi-final. Cup final. He hasn't scored 2 in the same game for a long time, anyway. So yeah, great to have him back on form, and I think it probably helps having Forrest there as well. I think Forrest is more likely to play that pass, which gives him something to do, which gives, just it's strange. Like I feel like we've now got 2 wingers who are looking for him, whereas I'm not sure that's Maeda's game. I'm not sure it's Palmer's game. It's definitely not Yang's game. So I think that helps as well. And it all just kind of works. It's a bit of, I hate the word balance, but it's balanced. And Hatate as well. He loves playing with Hatate. So who doesn't?
Yeah,
he's a lovely boy. Can I give you my Kyogo weird thought though?
I hear it.
When it cut to him on the bench at the end, he was still wearing his mouth guard, his gum shield. So he'd been sat with a gum shield in for 20 minutes. Now, as I've mentioned many times, I work in a sport where people wear gum shields all the time. And as soon as the whistle blows, they're straight out talking to each other. And these guys are in, out constantly with them because you can't talk with one in. Maybe if nobody else speaks Japanese on the bench, he doesn't need to. He can protect himself from whatever hazards might fly his way. But yeah, very weird. Or he did the John Terry and he put it back in when he came on at the end to celebrate.
Okay. Get the strip back on.
These are the things that, it's 2 a.m. You've been up since 6 o'clock in the morning and you're going, why's Kyogo wearing a gum shield? I don't know. But there you go. Yeah. That was my great takeaway. Please subscribe to my Substack.
I know I can't say I noticed that myself, but I noticed when they all come off that they love to just sit about in their Under Armour, like their pajamas almost, when they sit off, they come off the bench, come off the pitch onto the bench, I should say. But yeah, I think coming out of the Hearts game with the, getting 2 goals in the first half, like we mentioned before, it was a game of 2 halves. We had 2 really good 2 halves of good performances, and the bench didn't. I don't know if the bench didn't necessarily add to the game, but it didn't really detract from the team like it has done over this season. It felt like the subs coming on the 70th minute rather than the 60th was maybe a wee lesson learned from a few weeks ago. And then when you are calling on the 70th minute, we get the triple sub, and then 5 minutes Palma, a couple of minutes Bernardo. It just felt like, the whole unit was deployed much, much better, rather than, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the last game before the split, Rodgers took off McGregor and Ida bang on, McGregor and Kyogo bang on 60, and we definitely lost a little bit in the match for a minute. I forget the game exactly, but it seemed like doing that a little bit later in the game, we got a bit more out of Hatate. But Furuhashi certainly before the subs came around. So
Kyogo was still chasing people in the 70th minute. He was actually running around. He was a bit of Dr. Kyogo. Are you aware of this phenomenon? There's a bit of Dr. Kyogo going on where he sort of pretends like he's the sort of doesn't speak English Japanese guy, but he's really snotted. You know, like we'll go and pick on injured players and stuff like that. There was a bit of that going on, and I thought, here we go. He's getting into it now.
Yeah, he likes to hide his kind of ruthless edge with that wee smile and picking people up and all that. But yeah, he's definitely not shy with putting himself about. But on the same flip note to that, the Hearts changes that they made second half were way more attacking. They kind of changed their shape from like a 5 at the back to more like a 4-2-3-1 when they bring on the likes of Oda, Barry Mackay, and Tagawa. And normally, like at that point, it's 2-0.
Barry
Mackay did. He didn't really get a touch, to be honest with you. But
I didn't even
when they bring on a
play.
Yeah, when they bring on a triple sub like that, you would maybe think that, you know, at 2-1, they're going to try and turn the pressure up, which I suppose they did try to. And then maybe if they make it 2-1, it makes the game a little bit hairy. But we get some great saves out of Joe Hart throughout the game. And like I mentioned as well, but I think the bench and the game management from us was excellent. So, Hearts
Great
game, I think
timing
everyone
when
comes out with pass marks.
Yeah, great timing and drinking your glass of water there, just as you start talking. Yeah, so I've got a bit of a theory about the subs that we're really good if we need to move the game up. Like if we want to go more attacking, you can bring on like guys like Palmer, Yang, etc. Lesser extent either. We don't yet have the ability to move it in either direction. Like if we want to shut a game down, you can bring on Iwata, maybe Bernardo. Maybe either you can go long, but then does that actually just invite the ball to come back because you stop trying to keep it? Like I feel like our current setup of wingers is the most defensive it can be. Like we have, you know, if you have Maeda and Kuhn or Maeda and Forrest, like Forrest is the guy you could bring on late and he keeps the ball, he gets fouled, he moves it up the park. But if he starts, then you bring in on Palmer and you're like, oh, Palmer will lose the ball. Good. I mean, then again, if you were losing and you wanted to bring on a guy who might ping one in from 30 yards, bring on Lewis Palmer. But like, yeah, I feel like we haven't got quite that balance yet, but you know, you can have everything. I think we've got 5 different wingers we could play, which is pretty, and I'm happy kind of with most configurations of them. You know, we've seen pretty much all of them at all times this year. So, yeah, I think it was interesting to see them left on longer, and I wonder if that is, again, I had a theory about this, which was the 60-minute sub against Hearts. The 70-minute sub against Hearts is the 60-minute sub against Rangers. Like faster game, blah blah blah. And he just wanted to see, has Forrest, if I need Forrest to play 10 minutes more, does he have it? Does McGregor have it? Does who's the other person I'm thinking of? Kyogo. Does Kyogo have it? Like, you know, because they've generally come off at the same time or have been coming back into the team, all this sort of stuff. And I thought then there's probably something in that he's just going, if I need to push this next week, can I do it? Because, you know, at that point, 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go, you might as well experiment because you're probably not going to lose. And you can always, if something went wrong, you could just change the team immediately anyway. So, yeah, I think that was more of a one eye on the next week kind of thing that he was doing.
Interesting. And yeah, I guess in terms of one eye on next week, part of that triple sub, probably the last thing I definitely want to bring up from the game at the weekend. It was my personal highlight of the game. I was there in attendance. We had some Celtic here subscribers winning some tickets as well. We all had a great time. But Dyson Maeda coming back from injury after being ruled out for the season. Honestly, like I've seen some big cheers for some players over the years, right? But the cheer he got coming back on, like, it just made me so happy. Because again, we've been on this podcast, we've been speaking to people on live chats, on live streams and all the rest of it. Dyson has firmly divided the Celtic fan base throughout his time in Glasgow quite firmly over the last 2 or 3 months. But it does feel since like post Jota, everyone is kind of getting into the headspace of, oh, actually, Maeda is quality if you kind of see what he's doing and see what he brings. And from where I was sitting, I couldn't see his face. He also put on a lovely social media post after. But I could see it in him. I was like, that is just filling him up right now. You know, he will be absolutely buzzing out of his wee tits right now, ready to go. And for the 20 minutes that he played, like, we all know he's fast. We all know he's got endeavour. But even watching the highlights back as well after the game, I don't think he's actually been that coordinated. You know, he was like really running at pace, left foot, right foot touches, you know, like nothing was like a missed touch or none of the passes were like bad or crosses were terrible. Maybe he was, you know, making a cutback and nobody was there. That kind of thing still happened. But it really felt like he had like any of those little 5% errors that he kind of has in his life. They didn't happen, you know. So I'm really excited that we've maybe got a new level of Dyson maybe now that he feels all the love coming from the Celtic Park.
Hey, I'm not wearing it now, but I have a Dyson Maeda shirt. I'd like to point out I've had it for a long time. I'm an OG Dyson Maeda fan, love him. But yeah, he's a frustrating young boy. I'm sure I don't know if I've made this comparison on the podcast before, but he's basically reverse Samaras, right? Like Samaras was all skill, no effort. Like, but and could be brilliant from. It wasn't week to week; it was like minute to minute. Dyson's got that. Like, you could pass the ball to Samaras and he could completely miscontrol it and then not chase after it, or he could run through 3 players and score. Dyson's a bit like that, where if the ball comes to him in front of him, you'd expect him to score, but if the ball comes to him, comes to his feet, rolls slowly towards him, and there's an open goal, you'd expect him to miss. But like, he's all effort, kind of. If it goes well, it goes well. Whereas Samaras got the opposite, but they still have the same vibe. I feel like you'll either absolutely love what they bring because of what they're good at and forget all the other stuff, or you'll absolutely think, why have we got this guy who can run but can't play football? Or this guy who can play football but can't run. So yeah, I think as well, there's a realization in the support that he's like the best player against Rangers. Like, he is a full-on Hunskelper, because their best player is James Tavernier. I mean, best attacking player, I should say. He's a terrible defender. But like, if you've got Dyson Maeda, he can't go forward because Dyson will just run in behind him all day, and he scares the life out of Tavernier. So, look, I'm not afraid of James Tavernier, the defender, but James Tavernier can cross, and we can't. We have Liam Scales playing centre back, so anything could happen. But like, I think that's so vital to our tactics. That face, man, that face. 4 more years of that face. But yeah, he is a player who they really can't deal with. So having him back, even if it's only for 20 minutes, right before the derby, is exactly what you want to see. Like, he's a guy they can't deal with. And I think if we start with Dyson and Kyogo at the same time, their defense is going to be what I know we're moving forward a bit. It's going to be Tavernier, suit of Ben Davis, maybe. Like, that is a slow defense. Barisic, oof, that is a slow defense. And there's some very fast boys. So, yeah, I think I love him. I love the reception that he got. I love that it's weird with the Japanese boys because, you don't really hear them speak in the media. Like, obviously their English isn't brilliant, but I feel like you still get a vibe of what they're like. Like, I get the vibe of sort of the troubled artist about Ryo Hatate, sort of enthusiastic, emotional character in Dyson Maeda, the sort of aloof, better than everybody character in Kyogo. I completely just read this into them based on their social media interactions and haircuts. But I like to think that this is who they are. It's like when I project onto my own, onto my dog, what his personality is, when he's just a guy who likes licking his own bum and chasing tennis balls. Like, we should keep a list of how many players I compare to my dog. Too many.
Should.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, they are sort of enigmatic because of, we can tell you what James Forrest is like or what Matt O'Reilly's like because we, God knows, we know what Alistair Johnson is like because they put him up on the Celtic TV little VT things all the time, but you don't get that with the Japanese guys. So you kind of have to imagine. But yeah, I feel like Maeda loves it, and his return, the fact that we didn't think he'd be back, which does it now on a semi-serious point. He had a hamstring problem, right? That was what he was out for. So I don't know if you've ever pulled your hamstring. I pulled my hamstring. It's really either pulled or it's not. Like, it's not a run it off. It's not a, it's pretty much it will go or it won't. And you only know that until it's already happened. Like, it's very difficult to predict. And that's why we all thought he'd be out. So it must have been a lower grade tear because, you can play through some things, but you really can't play through a hamstring, like it's done or it's not. So I can only assume it wasn't as bad as they thought, because if there was one player I thought could recover in twice as quick time, it probably is Dyson. But yeah, so I worry that we would start him in 5 minutes and he chases after a long ball and it immediately goes, like Dembele did at Ibrox maybe once about 5 years ago. So yeah, that would be my concern, but that is a maximum, shite bag ahead of derby behaviour. Would you start him?
Oh yeah, I'd be starting him. Yeah, I'd be starting him.
Would you start him above Forrest?
Yeah, I think so. I think the front three is Forrest, Dyson and Kyogo for this game.
So you drop Kuhn?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So you said Kuhn did well in this game, and I would agree with the fact that he didn't do bad necessarily. I don't think he actually gave anything to the game, but he wasn't like a passenger or like a bad player.
He gets the ball up the field, right? And I feel like if you get him into that position enough times, he'll be effective. Like I don't feel like he's like Yang, where I never think he's going to score. Like I think he is going to do something eventually. And there was a couple. He got to the byline and it sort of got shoveled behind. And I thought, yeah, he's done the right thing there. There was a couple of times he cut in. I'm like, mate, shoot! Like first 20 minutes, like you. And God knows, I love an XG per shot, but like you can just shoot from here. Like their goalkeeper is not very good. Just make him do something. So there was a bit of that, and I don't know if that's confidence, and if that's what he's been told, like don't shoot from more than 20 yards because whatever reason. Yeah, there could be a bit of that to it. So I would back him. But then I think Forrest is a good player who can adapt well, play that sort of role that we want him to play at the moment. So I'm not against. If Kuhn comes off the bench, I'd be happy. If Forrest comes off the bench, I'd be happy. If Maeda comes off the bench, I'd rather Maeda start because I know what he can do against them specifically.
Yep.
Between Forrest and Kuhn, I'm scheißegal, as Kuhn would say. I don't care. Got to use that. Well, I spent years learning German. I might as well use it.
I would go with that because, to quote the manager after the game, we're after some fun this weekend, and it's definitely started the battle, the war of the words quite early. We see Big Phil coming back, biting back very quickly, and I think he's just showing. He's just so not used to this atmosphere, this cauldron. I know he's been a manager at Bruges and Monaco, big teams that have derbies of their own to a greater or lesser extent in different ways. But yeah, biting back like that, it's just it's 1-0 Brendan straight away. Like it's Monday, we're up 1-0 already. And just to finish the segue, and you can give in on this, Michael, if we're going to have fun coming up this weekend, this is the team we're probably going to be against. So Barisic or the boy Yilmaz come back. See if I can zoom this in a little bit. You're trying to squint your eyes there. Or maybe the left back, Suter and Balogun centre back. You mentioned Davis. He's come off the bench and got a goal in this one. I missed the second half.
I think Balogun. I think I saw, and people can Google this. I think Balogun's injured. So he came off at half time
with an injury rather than being crap.
I mean, he's also crap, but no, yeah, I think he's injured. So in that case, that's why Davis would come on. I'm not sure what the deal is with Goldson. Is he dead? Is he rubbish? I mean, he is rubbish, but is he so rubbish that even they won't pick him? Like,
I've seen him in the stands. I was watching a little bit of the first half, and when they were losing 1-0, he was in the stands, and I think he had a boot on. I think he's injured. I think he had a boot on.
Oh, like a moon boot. I was thinking like, yeah. He forgot his other one and he can't play. It's like, are they going to make him go to like the, when you forgot your kit in PE and you've got to wear the spares with PE written on in crayon? Like, I don't know how you did things in Glasgow. That's how it works in Rochdale.
Yeah. No, not this time. But
we can do it in his underpants.
Maybe. Fabio Silva, obviously, with his dash celebration. I managed to catch that before I turned it off. But this is it's basically the same team we played last time around. And this looks to be their kind of strategy to playing against us, playing two right backs, to try and double up on one side of the pitch here. So I think, looking at
Sterling there, he played on the right wing for them. He played at left back against us in the last game, right?
Yeah.
Very strange.
So I think they'll either, maybe he goes back to left back, but maybe the boy Yilmaz, he's just back from an injury. I know they quite like him for pace. Barisic could be Sterling, but yeah, this is kind of like the makeup of the team, and I don't have much fear against this team coming to Celtic Park, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, like the defense is the main thing I look at and think, yes, if we've got that front three, Maeda, Forrest, and Kyogo for the first half, we'll definitely get some change out of them, I would think.
Yeah, I'm distracted here briefly by counting how many ex-Celtic players are playing for Motherwell. But was it Motherwell? No, who did they play?
Kilmarnock.
Diaz, he was on our youth team. Stuart Finlay. Very distracted by this. What's that Kennedy kid called? Liam Donnelly. God, Marley Watkins. This is what I'm sure I've mentioned. I think Matty Kennedy's played for us though back in the day, but I'm going to find that out. It's not one for anyone else's time. I think. Every time I look at their team, I'm like, oh, it's them same old dudes. They're all your Taverniers, your Suitors, Barisic, like Cantwell. You're not bothered about them. Lundstrom, as long as they're playing, we're better than them. I really don't think maybe their goalkeeper would get in our team. Apparently, he's been challenging people to fights outside training today. So, have you seen that?
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. So,
He needs
so
a fish supper
Butland.
in his hand. Where's his fish supper? That's what he's.
So what was it we had? We had Butland, we had the manager, and we had Barisic as well, getting into it with fans and comments and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's maybe 2 or 3-0 to Brendan and co before Monday morning kind of hits. This is the scores and the results we had at the weekend for just a bit of a contrast and comparison. So one of the best games we've had out of the season for.
Oh, is this your so rare? So sorry. Matt O'Reilly got 99.4 out of 100. That's pretty good. And Lawrence Shanklin got 14. I'm not an expert on this game, but that
conceded a penalty.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
I know we have VAR, right? How on earth did that go to VAR? Like he could have put it up his jumper. Like Canelo threw an uppercut on Jaime Munguia at the weekend, and Lawrence Shanklin hit it better than Canelo Alvarez did. Like, in the last game, the last Derby game, when it was like John Beaton went to the VAR 3 times and lost, basically. Like, someone in rugby league did 5 at the weekend, where they got, you can challenge the calls in rugby league, and they got 5 challenges wrong. As in the teams challenged them and got it right. So yeah, they could be worse. But yeah, how on earth given that any contact with the hand basically is, a penalty unless otherwise said, he punched the leather off it and didn't even get given.
Up here?
Like full on uppercut. Like, what are you doing? It's as if, like when you're sick of the game anymore, you're like, fuck this, I'm not playing anymore. It was like that. Anyway, and he didn't get sent off. Like, how more blatant could your handballs be? And he'd already been booked.
It was red on a yellow. I totally missed that until the next day. Somebody said to me, I was like, oh yeah, you get booked rapid in this game. It was maybe the only thing the ref gave us was booking Shanklin, because I'm not sure he even, it was on Kyogo, wasn't it? I'm not even sure he really caught him too much.
Oh yeah, it was nothing. I actually thought
yeah.
Yeah, really weird. Although I thought if he'd have got sent off, would that have ruled him out? I mean, not that he ever scores against Rangers. I don't think he's ever scored against
I know. But mate, again, especially, let's just flip this back around again. See, when this guy gets sent off for the Rangers penalty for handball,
if they win, I don't watch it.
I couldn't believe that they red carded him. I thought that was like, he saved the ball off the line basically. Like, he's not meant it. He's on the line, and then they take a shot from point blank range, and he's kind of fallen, and his leg and his arm are kind of, they're not connected.
Just hits him. Like one of them ones, like, it is a penalty, but he's just hit.
And he stops a goal, which fair enough, right? But I don't think we see red cards for that anymore. Obviously, we don't get it for keepers. We know the double jeopardy element with the goalkeeper stuff, but yeah, I found that really peculiar. Obviously, it really swung the thing in their favour, and it is maybe it's a huge double standard on Shanklin's not even getting a second yellow in that. So nice wee, or not, I don't know about a nice wee, but something. I mentioned this on my review, my analysis of the game, but that incident is why we need VAR as much as we hate it, because if there's no VAR, we don't get that penalty. Like that guy just pretends, I didn't see it.
Yeah, this is the thing that's always been the case with VAR, right? Is that when it was brought in, and this has been so litigated, it's kind of tedious now, but like when it was brought in, it was for instance like that, where you could go, that is definitely wrong, and you need to change your mind about it. And what the practical application of it has been is, let's look at everything 700 times until it's divorced from all meaning, to see if there might have at some point been an offside. And you're just like, oh, come on, who cares? Get on. The best sport, I mean, the absolute best example of this is cricket. Like, cricket is really only 1 or 2 or 3 things can happen. Like, they minimally use it. They may empower the players to be like, you can use this at your discretion. If you get it wrong, you lose them. Like, all that sort of stuff is, that's how it should work. Like, it's not there to relitigate everything. It's just there to sort out, was this hitting a thing? Was this caught? Was this, all that sort of stuff, rather than doing the nuances of it, which is what we've got now. If it was up to me, I would give every team 3 challenges or 2 challenges during a match and say, like, that's it. You use them at your discretion. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong. Like, that would be, yeah. And then it's on them. It just moves the burden of problems to everybody else. But people don't need to hear my views on VAR. I just get rid of it. I go and watch soccer all the time over here that doesn't have VAR. Like, the A-League's got VAR, but the other leagues don't. And I never miss it. Every time I go, nah, gone, finished.
You definitely don't miss it too much. But we've had the announcement that Willie Collum will be refereeing this game at the weekend, so I suspect the VAR will be thoroughly in use. It will be in prime time, won't it?
Yeah, it'll be. Who's doing the VAR? Is it John Beaton, Crawford Allen, Ian Paisley Jr., Jim Allister, John Knox, Martin Luther, any of them? All of them.
Usual suspects, the regulars. Yeah. For sure. So yeah, I think coming into the game at the weekend, like the front three has to be the front three, just on, the form that we've got, because a few things we've spoke about this season. We've been trying to shuffle together a front three all season, and it feels like we're just about got a front three. We could probably say, yeah, let's go with them, and then the fun that they will cause from there. The rest of the team does kind of pick itself, and they put the scores back up from the weekend again for 2 seconds. These ratings are all out of 100, and it's based on two things. It's based on their decisive contribution to the match, like do they do anything, like score goals or whatever, and then just their all-around contribution to the game, passes, tackles, shots, that kind of stuff. And like this is one of the more complete performances that we've had from so many players this weekend, where everyone is getting involved in all aspects of the game. And like that's, I put a little tweet out after the game saying like, this is one of the first times it's really like, this is how it feels to be Celtic. Like really the tempo of play, the style of play we had for 90 minutes, I just think you cannot detract from that at this point. This is
the speed of it was great.
Yeah.
The speed was the thing that took me. Like, we have been ponderous a lot of the time, and we really weren't at the weekend. Like, that's, I don't know if it just makes it look better, but like, even though we didn't score for 60 minutes, like we looked like we could. And if we play that against Rangers, we'll batter them. I don't have any trepidation about it at all. Like, they can't compete with us playing at that speed. And the difference in like between the best teams and the worst teams in Scotland is the ability to do it fast and repeatedly. Yep. Like, and we can play at a level that they can't play at for longer than they can cope with. So, and that's what I thought we did to Hearts, even if we didn't actually capitalize on it. And I wonder, when you 2-0 up, you finish differently, you play differently. Like, if we'd have been 0-0, would we have been more focused and finished better? Probably. So, yeah, I think if we can do that, we'll win.
Yeah, I would agree. I think at Celtic Park as well, when it is like 3 games to go, title is on the line as it is. It's not signed off yet. We've not got our hands on it yet. Then these are the types of games where like the banter years were formed. These are the type of games where we do get a famous result. There's going to be none of those fans in the stadium. And Celtic Park at the weekend was electric. Honestly, like I've not been.
Yeah, tell me about that, because that sounded amazing on the TV. And like I've watched a lot of Celtic TV 3 p.m. Saturday kickoffs, and then they're usually pretty meh. But that sounded amazing.
Yeah, for a league match, like I don't think I've, excluding a derby game, I don't think I've been at a league match that's been like that since maybe like I was a little guy. Like, I remember at Christmas time, a small tangent, I'll kind of tell you how it was at the weekend, but I remember when I was a lot younger, they used to do Green Nose Day sometime around Christmas, and it was normally, I don't know if it was a coincidence, the time or two, I remember doing it at least once or twice, going to a game, and it was like that. But I think it was Hibs, and some of those atmospheres were really good because it was like festive season. Everyone's a bit drunk. Maybe a lot of people are off work and stuff, and it was quite good for a league game in that setting. But that for me at the weekend was unlike anything. Like the singing for the first 10 minutes or so was brilliant. Like pre-game, there wasn't even a big tifo or anything on the go, which sometimes does unite the stadium into a bit of song and cheer and all the rest of it. But it was just, I couldn't even tell you where it came from, but it was just from, as soon as you got into the stadium, the songs were going from the Green Brigade, from the boys and everyone in between. And then when the game started, even though Hearts, like, you know what it's like as well. Like when Hearts, I think Shankland was in our box in the first minute.
Oh yeah, they had a pretty good chance in the first. I don't think it was Shankland, but it was in the first,
40 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And normally when that happens, that might take a wee bit of the wind out the sails. Maybe sometimes there's a bit of pie in the face and they get a goal, sucker punches, that kind of thing. But even, obviously it didn't turn into anything, but even with maybe the first 5 minutes not being great football, it didn't slow the fans down. And eventually, when the play did start kicking in, Celtic Park's obviously famous for being the 12th man and bringing the team up a level. But as Celtic started playing the way they did, they've returned that to the stands. Like the stands were really feeding off of it. Like it just didn't stop really the whole way through the game. It was brilliant. And it felt like a warm-up act or a warm-up routine for the stadium ahead of this weekend because of it's only going to be better, you know, like, so it felt like everyone was really warming up for the derby, you know, against the mini jam tarts.
Yeah, it was, do you know, it was weird because obviously this game started at midnight our time, right? And I finished work at like 10:30, maybe. So I was sat around going like, am I actually going to stay up here or am I going to get up at, sometimes I go to bed and I'll watch it at 6 a.m.
Yep.
Go to bed at 10:30, wake up at 6, 7, whatever, and just watch it in bed. And I thought, no. And then I wasted a lot of time watching FA Cup highlights from the early 2000s. That's how cool I am. Cardiff beating Leeds United and Liverpool 5, Luton 3. I think that's what got me off on it. Anyway, went in a real rabbit hole. Started watching Inter Milan games in the early 2000s as well. And by that point, I was like, all right, I'm staying up. So I turned on Celtic TV whenever they started the broadcast, and there was like nobody there. I was thinking, really weird. But it was one of them, you know, I forgot this from going, obviously, when I had my season ticket, I used to go all the time. God, you get into the ground at 5 minutes before kickoff. Like from 15 minutes before to kickoff, it filled up the whole stadium, came through. And yeah, I was there the day we won the unbeaten treble. You know, we played Hearts, it was the full stadium tifo, and I was thinking you'd be going back as far as that to think of an atmosphere outside of sort of Europe and derbies that was better than it. And obviously I wasn't in the ground because I live in Australia, but I was in the ground that day, and I was thinking that was pretty, like I was in the North Curve then, like that was pretty special because there was such a big thing at the end of it, you know? Or maybe the Billy McNeil game, the one that Simonovic scored the header in the 67th minute. Like there's some pretty big moments that have just been otherwise run-of-the-mill games. But in terms of, you know, there was some brilliant moments, but across the whole game, I couldn't really think of a better one going back, at least to that Hearts game on the last day of the season, 2017, was that in 2016-17 season? First season of Rodgers. So pretty impressive, yeah. So, yeah, go bring it forward next week because I think that there is it's underrated how when you play that style of football that's really high octane, the pressing's really good. I actually thought our pressing was kind of rubbish on Saturday at times, especially in the first half, but like it's really chaotic football. If it's like head scrambling football, if you're the other team and that atmosphere and on top of it, it really does make a difference. Like, especially to a team with, shall we say, a reputation for not dealing with pressure particularly well, like the one that we will be playing on Saturday night, and it's my birthday, so you know.
Oh, yeah, we've got that going.
Yeah, sure. Not that I'm sure. I'm sure the Celtic, you know, we've never played Rangers on my birthday. I think certainly we never won the league on my birthday. We've never really achieved anything. On my birthday. Oh. So
hopefully that'll be changing this weekend.
Now's the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you though. We're very freestyling and running on today. How do you think Rangers are going to play? Because when they sit off us at home, if they do you remember the last time they were in the situation when they basically sat off us for an hour and it didn't work?
Yeah. Under Beale.
Yeah, and we just beat them. So if they do that for the first 60 minutes on Saturday, we could be 3-0 up by the time they change. But if they go at us early, could work. Or, you know, say they go 1-0 up and then they've got something to defend. But, like, I just feel like we're going to get an extended period of pressure. And it's up to them whether they think it should happen at the start or the end. I think they'd try and maybe do it at the end.
I think this is the last time they came at Celtic Park. They had the boy Sterling in defensive mid. Balogun gets sent off. Diomaz played. I think that this will probably be quite similar to what they would want to do. I think Sima is their best player. I don't know if he's not really been featuring too much. I know he's got a bit of an injury problem now or something. But in general, like I don't think they've got many strings to their bow. I don't think they've got much room for manoeuvre. Like Fabio Silva, it feels like he's contracted to start every game at the moment, regardless of form and everything else. So he's probably going to play on the left. And I don't know who will be on the right. But then the rest of the team, I think it is just whoever they've got that will play. In terms of style of football, I think the thing with come on is it's not really for better or for worse. It is for better in football management, especially with the situation he finds himself in. But he's been very consistent in, approach to the game, general kind of layout of the team and tactics and whatever. So I don't expect any curveballs or any surprises or anything like that. The main thing we need to worry about, if you remember this game, the 2-1 victory, Tavernier scored right at the end with a free kick. It's that kind of thing we need to worry about, is dead balls, free kicks, or crap from the ref. You know, there's nothing more. The thing I hate the most is after like a contentious decision, then something happens off the back of it real quickly, and it feels like this game is maybe primed for that to be an opportunity for them to get in. So I think they deal in chaos. They deal in, you know, random things happening or random strokes of fortune or misfortune for us. And yeah, I don't think there's any difference to that come the weekend. You know, that's still, you know, those things can happen. Maybe they get a goal through some random freak occurrence or whatever. But from scales all the way up through the team, I think we're far superior than them.
Yeah, you just give me the fear looking at that and say that we started with Liam Scales and Stephen Welsh at the same time in that game. But yeah, I think there's what's interesting, right? So I don't watch their games unless they lose. Like I'm not. Like I generally don't. Like I've got no interest in watching them. I always see the result beforehand, and I've got no interest in watching them win. So, but I do like to look at the stats, and one of the things that they appear to have no knowledge of is XG per shot. As in, you'll look at them and you go, "Oh, they've scored 2 goals. What was the XG?" And it'll be like, 2.35, and you go, "Oh, that seems all right." But then you'll see it's from 40 shots, and you're like, "Are they just shooting from everywhere? Like, is this what they do?" And I guess that kind of plays into they're pretty direct, and they will shoot, they will cross it, which is what you say. That's
41 shots against Kilmarnock.
Yeah. That was
10 men, Derek McInnes against the ball. You know, maybe it's a bit generous, but yeah, 41 shots.
Yeah, only 16 corners though. We got 17, so go fuck yourself. Did they score off one? Because we definitely didn't. But they love all that. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so they love all that sort of get it in the mixer, kind of take shots, blah blah blah. And I think that inherent in that is that it can work. Like you can stick one in from 30 yards, and that changes the game pretty fundamentally. And I think it's just what we need to do is just be really controlled and just say, keep the ball away from our don't give away stupid free kicks, a la my spiritual king Mike Narowski, who did in that game, which Tavernier sent in. But try not to give away that sort of free kick. Try and generally play at their end of the field, and we'll win through pressure. They will make mistakes. Their defense has got loads of mistakes in it. They're slow. We've got the more times that Hatate and O'Reilly touch the ball, the more likely we are to win, and all that sort of stuff. Get the rest defense set up, get the ball up the field, play control, play in their end. All of the stuff that Brendan Rodgers tends to be pretty good at doing, that looks bad against St Mirren at home, Dundee away, can look quite rubbish. But against this Rangers team, I think would be very effective. And that's kind of, I've just got a feeling with Rodgers, right? I love this. I've got a thing up here that makes me go, well, let me tell you one thing about Celtic. It's great audio content. Is that the best games that we've played this year, by and large, have been the most important games. I think we have 5 out of 6 Champions League games we played all right. Up until the red card in
5 out of 6. Okay, until red cards and stuff happen, I could maybe accept 5 out of 6 before. Okay, so I'm saying we will fall off.
Athletic away, we played badly. Even
agreed.
Dodgy red card. Feyenoord, I thought we were the better team in the first half till Joe Hart threw one in.
Yep.
Game's 90 minutes long, so I suppose whatever. But they're a good. Feyenoord are a good team. I think we're definitely better than Lazio at home. I think we're pretty good at home to Athletic. I think we weren't that bad with half a team away at Lazio for quite a lot of it. I think when did they score? Second half of the hour or something like that.
Yeah.
We've won 2 out of 3 against Rangers and drawn the other. There's a lot of games where I think when we have been, when a team has played us, we have risen our level to the team that we're playing against, right?
Yeah.
And in both ways, in the sense that when we play bad teams, we've tended to play down, by and large. So that gives me confidence. I think that if they want to play up and at them kind of football and try and press us high, that it might work because Liam Scales is playing. But I tell you what, if we break that press and you've got these aren't digs, this is generally what I think. If we break that press and then suddenly you've got 6 on 6 at the back, or 5 on 5, 4 on 4, and their defense is as slow as it is against Maeda and Kyogo, we'll skin them. If they go deep and we've got a lot of the ball, I think just through force of pressure, we'll do all right. So it's all very confident now, and I'm sure people can tag this next week and send it to me on Twitter and say, "Get that round, you Fenian bastard." But But that looking into it, as if I take off my, Celtic hat, Celtic hoodie, whatever, and go, this is what I think will happen. Like I'm getting up to watch the Champions League. Here's how I think Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich will go without thinking about. I don't care who wins particularly. This is how I would think about it: is that if our players are better and if we play at their end of the field and we play our style of football, it will negate their style of football. And they'll probably think the opposite and think, get it in the box. Liam Scales is playing centre half. Anything could happen. But yeah, I think for them to do well, it will require something like that, like a free kick or a dodgy decision penalty or someone smashing one in from 20 yards and their keeper to have a blinder, all of which could happen. But I would be confident that we would control enough of the game for that not to matter. Is that worryingly confident?
No, that's the problem with being a Celtic fan over the last 10, 15 years is that there's no reason to not be confident in these games. We've got the better team, we've got the track record, we've got box office Brendan who always delivers, like you say, in the biggest of games. But you do need to. It's just as soon as you think or feel that way, you've just got this natural inclination to balance it off with, well, this could happen, and yeah, we're not that great, and all the rest of it. But I definitely don't think it comes into overconfidence.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like all these things go. Like I think there is part of me that's like the head of me goes like, this is how I would expect if it were a neutral punter who just watched both teams. Not that I watch Rangers, but what I mean, that watches enough of Celtic, and I've seen enough of Rangers to know basically how they're going to play. Like this is what I think would happen. Like I don't watch Real and Bayern every week, but I've got a pretty good idea of how both of them go about football, or Dortmund, and PSG, whatever. The difference is that me and you, from the 90s onwards, have watched this team, and you're emotionally invested in it. So
yeah,
like when I watch the A-League here, I don't have an A-League team, so I just watch it as this is how Sydney FC play, this is how Brisbane Roar play, and you tend to appreciate which team plays well, which team plays badly, blah blah blah, and work out who might win. In that logic, I think Celtic should win. And also, like, I mean, maybe what's your view on this? But like, at what point does the fact that we don't need to win come into it?
Now, I heard somebody else saying this on a Celtic podcast. I try and listen to as much fan media as I can, but I heard somebody else saying this, that it's not a must-win game. And I'm actually gutted we're only talking about this right at the end of the podcast. This is a must-win game. Every game is a must-win game when you're Celtic. Like I don't, and I know it's not like must-win. Like, oh, if we draw, we're still in the same position and all the rest of it. But like, I can't hear that. I just can't take it. Like, it's not like Celtic is different to so many teams.
But there's 2 points here. There's like, yes, it is, I understand your logic that it is a must-win game because every game's a must-win game. But like, in the pure practicality terms, if we say draw this game, like we would be 3 points ahead. We could lose to Kilmarnock and then they would have to win 4-0 by 4 goals more than us on the last day. Like, so it is actually a game we could draw. Like we could draw it and be fine. But that's more what I mean.
Yeah, no, I agree with the on paper, the maths of it all. Like I get that. But for me, like Celtic, especially being a Celtic or a Rangers fan, also I can't speak for them, but I know from myself, like it's not just the points on the board, it's everything that goes around it. Like you don't want to give them any inclination that they're getting closer. You don't want to give them any green shoots of progress where they think, oh, we're on the right path, and if we do this, that's where the banter years were so special, because you just crushed their spirits every game. They were humiliated, they were destroyed, and it's just, I think it's made when they got back promoted, it makes our life so much better and easier in so many ways, because it is like when you're crushing your opponent like that, like it's so like we talk about the fragility and serial losers in some of that team, and that's because for their time up here, they get rattled. Like we batter them every time. And points on the board are one thing to win the league or whatever, but to maintain that, big brother, bully boy kind of, dynamic we've got going on versus them, points, the league table doesn't come into it. And to maintain being ahead of them, it's just like, it's got to be kill them. It's got to be, no holds barred, no submissions, go for the KO, kind of attitude.
So on that note, I'll give you my favorite. I'd say my favorite derby, right? You remember I think the last minute Venegor one, the year that we won it at Tannadice, that would be good. Or the Edouard, the 3-2, like there's been some goodies. No, my favourite one, and it's actually the anniversary of it because it was the day after some friends of mine got married in Liverpool. So I watched it at Liverpool CSC, and they just had their wedding anniversary, so it must have been around this time. And it was the 5-0, where we were 5-0 up after an hour. And my missus, I was incredibly hungover because it was the day after a wedding. And my brother came across from Manchester to watch it, and we were all like sat in the pub. And my sister-in-law and my missus and one of our friends who was over for the wedding had gone to the Tate Art Gallery in Liverpool, and then shut. So they turned up at 5-0. But my sister-in-law is obviously, she knows a little bit about football. The other two know nothing about football. And my missus is Australian. So she wouldn't. I think the only Celtic player she knows is Tom Rodgers because he's Australian, and I regularly said that she was my second favourite Australian, and Scott Brown because I've described him as a haircut inspiration for many years. So she had to learn who he was. She doesn't know anybody else. Oh, and she said, "Why do you have so many Japanese guys once?" I don't know. How do you explain that? So she doesn't even know who Ange Postecoglou is. Like, that hasn't made it as far as her part of Australia. And she just didn't understand that 5-0 up against Rangers was good. Like, she genuinely was like, "Is this good?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's good. It's definitely good." And the thing that haunts me about it really is that we could have beat him 8-0. Do you know what I mean? Like, Rogic scored with half an hour to play, an hour gone?
Yep.
I think, man, we could have absolutely scalped them. We could have 7-1 them, 7-0 them. And I'd love to be in that situation again because I feel, if we start and we play to our best, like, that's still possible. Like, our team is good enough to do that. And it's just been waiting for the moment to happen. And I feel like, let's manifest that into existence. Because
I'm all about that.
I don't think it'll go like that. I'm going to say, we know what I say, Quinny. It'll be 3-1.
It'll be 3-1. Well, we do normally finish the show with a score prediction, so I think you brought us there quite nicely, Mike. So you're going to go 3-1. Is that what you're saying? Or
I think Celtic are going to win every game they've ever played 3-1. Well, I mean, in Scotland. So
it's funny you say that
every week.
I think you did say that one of the last times you were on, and I was going to say to you, I don't do it anymore, but for the Derby games before they went bust, I used to always put 3-1 and pick a first goal scorer. And the only time it came in for me was we beat them 3-1 and it was Gary Hooper first goal. I can't remember the year or the game in particularly well, but it was like a fiver for like 120 quid or something. It was a good one. And I just remember 3-1 Hooper. Super.
There was the 3. I'm thinking that there was the 3-0, but that was when they were going bust in 2012. The 3-1. I can't remember it. I've slept since then.
It's just when you said that, I was like, I like a 3-1 as well. I like a 3-1 in a derby. It was my go-to back in the day. But since you said speak it into existence, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to predict a belter. So I think I'm going to go with Celtic 6-0.
Top it. You can do it.
Somebody gets a hat trick. And then there's 2 or 3 other guys that somebody off the bench will get a goal. So that's 4. And then there's just 2 more goals to find. Maybe Forrest gets one. Maybe Scales is going to get one.
Now, Quinny, I'm only half joking. Liam Scales is due a goal. Like, that boy, he meets corner. Like, he's Christopher Ayer levels of getting to corners but not scoring off corners. Like,
yeah,
Ayer was so good at, the first contact stats on him would be really high, and he never fucking scored. Like, and Scales is getting to that level now. We're like, I guess he must have scored at some point this year. But
do you remember who was sneaky good at scoring for a small centre back? I found it really surprising was Jason Denier. Like, he was sneaky good at scoring goals. If you remember, it was a one-season wonder, obviously.
Was he that small? Was he small?
For a centre back, he was next to Van Dijk, so maybe that's a scale problem for me. But like,
now speaking of actually so I had a period where I went to about 10 weddings in about 6 weeks. Weddings, right? And the final one, which included this one where I was watching Celtic Rangers, but not long after, so a couple of weeks later, I went to a wedding in Istanbul on a Friday, and me and my mate went to see Galatasaray play the day after.
Nice.
And I think Jason Denier played for them that day. They had.
He did. I probably would have, yeah.
It's about 2018, maybe. Yeah, maybe 2018. But I'll leave it this because it's one of my favourite things in football. Lewis Palmer has got this written all over him. Do you know when you see somebody who's like a sort of quite mercurial player and they do something amazing in the first 5 minutes and then they just go, well, that's me. I don't have to do anything else. Yunus Belhanda did it. He scored an amazing goal after 5 minutes and he just spent the rest of the game trying to nutmeg people. Like he fully went like, got my goal. They were playing like Cass and Passer or somebody rubbish. They were always going to win. Bafintini Gomez was playing up front. And he just went, well, we're going to win, so I'm just going to try and nutmeg people for the rest of the day. And then he'll get subbed after an hour and I'll probably not even stay to see the end. He'll already be, dancing shoes on and away into the night of Istanbul I go. So there you go. You see it a lot in the A-League when there'll be like one good number 10 and they'll be like, score. Sack off the rest of the game. I am here. I'm wearing my shorts, but I'm not really here.
It's like the MLS designated players, the ones that are in teams. Yeah. Once they've got a goal or two, that's it. Slippers on and paychecks in the mail kind of thing.
Yeah,
I can dig it.
If Lewis Palmer wants to do that, or
yeah, maybe Palmer gets one off the bench. Maybe it's Palmer Maeda 2 from the bench. A wee hat trick for Kyogo, a wee Scales header. 6-0 feels pretty good to me. I'm quite happy to try my best to speak into existence. I will be there. Normally when I go to Derby games, and I don't want to jinx it, but normally when I go to Derby games, it works out pretty well. So it should be a great one this weekend. For anyone else that's listening to this that is going, make sure to travel safe, have some fun, and let us know your score predictions, man the match predictions, and all the rest of it in the comment section down below.
I will be at the Celtic Sports Club in Sydney. So if you listen to this podcast and you live in Sydney and you hear somebody with a conspicuous northern accent, then buy me a pint. It's my birthday. Or it could be my mate. I think I'm going with my mate Jake, who's a Leeds United fan. So if you see somebody with a bald head and a conspicuous northern accent, you could be buying a pint for someone whose birthday isn't, but you'll at least know the person whose birthday it is. So yeah, Guinness, if you're asking. 9:30 kickoff on a Saturday. How good?
That will be good. And hail, Mike. I always go between the two, but hail.
Both are correct, Quinny.
And on screen there now some other stuff we've made. YouTube thinks you might enjoy, and we'll catch you on the next one. One hoops.
One hoops.